Hey everyone, welcome back to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com and here on my YouTube channel. And in this part one of a three-part mini-series, we are going to talk about 10 tips to help you build a successful home studio business. 10 tips for helping you build a successful home studio business. So before we get to part one of these 10 tips, if you like what you see in this video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, please go out to facebook.com/HomeRecordingMadeEasy and follow me there. That really helps me out tremendously. Also follow me on Twitter. And if you want more tips, tricks, concepts, and training around everything home recording, please be sure to head out to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com and be sure to sign up for my VIP email list, which is right on the homepage on the left-hand side. That exclusive VIP email subscription, which is of no cost to you, will give you special pricing and discounts on all my training products, as well as keep you informed on everything that's going on with Home Recording Made Easy, and you'll have special deals that are not made to the general public. So now let's get on to the 10 tips for you to build a successful home studio business. Okay, tip number one seems obvious, but it's something that I see a lot of people make a mistake, and that is having a plan. What kind of business do you want to be? Now, when I talk about having a plan, I don't necessarily mean you have to have this long drawn out Excel spreadsheet and a big time business plan with all kinds of numbers on it, but you should have written down on a piece of paper or typed in on a memo or a Word document in your computer a basic 4, 5, maybe half a page bullet point list on what kind of studio do you want to be. For example, do you want to be a tracking studio? Are you going to bring artists into your home studio to track? Are you going to be just a mixing studio or a mastering studio? Are you going to be an education website, kind of like HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com? What kind of things are you going to offer as far as your services go? Now, this is extremely important because if you're setting up from scratch, and you need to purchase gear and you need to get resources and things to help you start your business, you got to kind of know what kind of business you want to be. And the mistake that I see with a lot of beginners jumping into this from a business perspective, even if they've been mixing for a while and doing things for fun or as a hobby, is they have no idea what they want to do. They just want to be a business. They want to be an entrepreneur, and they have no clue on what kind of a roadmap they're going to need to be successful. So what I tell everyone that wants to get into this and do this for a living is before you do anything else, you need to really sit down and you need to think about it. You need to take some time to think about it. You need to do your research. Figure out what you want to do as far as what services you want to offer. What are you passionate about? What are you good at? And then you want to try to map out what is realistic. And what I mean by that is you don't want to try to be, when you're a brand new business of any kind, especially in this kind of a home studio recording business, you don't want to try to be everything to all people. You can't be the Walmart of home studio businesses, at least not at first. If you're starting from scratch, you want to pick one or two things that you're really passionate about, that you're really good at, and you want to focus on that. Whether that means if you're a really good tracking engineer, a really good recording engineer, and you want to track bands, you have a passion for that, or track artists, then focus on that. If you just want to focus on mixing and mastering, maybe that's something that you're passionate about and you're really good at, or you feel you're really good at, well then focus on that. Or maybe you're an educator like myself and you want to try to teach and give back to other recording musicians and upcoming audio engineers, then focus on that. But don't try to do all three at first. There'll be time for that later down the road, and we'll talk about that in some other tips down this list. So start off by sitting down or with a pen and a piece of paper or at your computer and really start to think about what kind of studio you want to be, what kind of services you want to offer, and map that out in written form. When you write things down, when you type things out and you read it back to yourself, it generates creativity and you start to think about the business side of things. Remember, this is a studio business. This is not a studio hobby anymore. We're talking about building a successful business. And the first step to building a successful business is knowing what kind of business you want to be, what kind of services you want to offer, and what is your goal as far as how do you want to start. Keep that goal and that scope small at first, and we can build on it later. So sit down, type out your goals, figure out what kind of studio and what kind of services you want to offer, and that is tip number one. Okay, on to tip number two. Tip number two, again, seems obvious, but it's something that a lot of people overlook or they don't do it effectively. And you need to have an online web presence, an effective web presence. And what do I mean by that? It's not enough anymore to just have a simple Facebook page and say these are my services, and you just throw up a Facebook page and you don't really, cultivate it, and you don't go on Facebook very often. You need to have a few things if you really want to be effective. Number one, you want to have a really nice, well-developed, professionally designed, if possible, website. And that seems, again, obvious to people, but there's a lot of key components to having websites that are effective, that drive traffic. And although we're not going to talk about all those details in this particular video, You want to do some research on finding someone or a company or a friend or a family member, someone who really does do a good job designing a professional looking website, a .com of some kind. You want to have a web presence that is aside from things like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, because those platforms over time will tend to change. The popularity of those things will tend to change. Things will tend to die off and they won't become popular anymore. Hence myspace.com, if anyone remembers that. And if you have all your eggs on those social media platform baskets, they will eventually change and they will go away. You want to be effective on those, but you really want to have your own .com, your own website. And again, the key to that is you want it to be built in a professional looking way. You want it to be a website that is effective. Some things that you can think about when you're talking about designing an effective website is A, you want it to be simple. You want it to be simple and easy to navigate. You want your visitor or your prospective client to jump onto that home page and they want to be able to find things very easily. You want to keep things very clean looking. You want to keep things very simply laid out so things are easy to read. Fonts are plain and easy to read. You don't want any fancy colors and a lot of weird kind of font text because they're not easy to read. You also don't want to clutter your website with a bunch of unnecessary garbage just because it looks pretty. You want it to be effective. Some of the most effective websites that I've ever seen that are the most popular are ones that are really, really simple, really, really clean, really, really easy to navigate. On that website, you want to have a couple of main things. You obviously want to have a home page. You want to have a basic layout of what your services are going to be and what your pricing structure is going to be. And we could talk about that in future videos. You want to have a portfolio of some of the work that you can show prospective clients on what kind of quality they can expect when they come to work with you, whether you're a mixing engineer or a tracking engineer or whatever you're doing, whether you're creating digital products and educational products. You want to have samples of those things on your website so people can easily find them and see this is the kind of quality I can expect when I deal with this particular person's home studio business. So you have to have a good home page. You want to have a nice portfolio page. You obviously want to have a contact page where people can easily email you or call you very easily. So again, just a few simple pages on a website to start. Keep it simple, keep it clean. Make it effective. And again, do your research on building effective websites. And the best thing to do if you're not really sure, you don't have a lot of experience in this, is you want to hire someone to build that website for you. Your website, your main website is like your business card. It is your resume. It is one of the most massive and most effective, or can be the most effective forms of marketing that you will ever do in your business in today's day and age. And you want to get it right. You don't want to cheap out on a website. You don't want to put something up that looks sloppy and amateurish because no one's going to want to deal with you, and that's just the reality. So there's a good news is there's a lot of resources out there to help you. You need to do your research. You need to have a good .com website. You also want to make sure that you're on the other popular social media platforms. Again, this seems obvious, and a lot of people have Facebook pages, and a lot of people have YouTube channels, and a lot of people have Twitter accounts and Instagram and all these other ones. But the problem that I see with a lot of people when they're starting out is they have all these different social media platforms, but they're never on them. They don't go there and post regular content. They're not consistent. They're not constantly updated. And when someone jumps on your Facebook page and it looks like you haven't posted in 6 months, that's a bad signal to a prospective client. So if you're going to be on social media like Facebook and YouTube, for example, make sure that you're putting up content on a consistent basis, whether that's one video a week or one post a week, or whether it's 2 or 3 times a week. You have to get yourself in a schedule and you have to continually update and interact with these social media platforms. If you don't do that, they're useless to have. You would better off have one, say, Facebook page and just your main website if you were completely effective and consistent with those 2 websites. And if that's all you did, you will get much further along than if you have a website, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, an Instagram account, a Periscope account, a YouTube account, and you do very little to nothing on all of them because you just can't get to them all because it takes a lot of time. These social media platforms take a lot of time to manage, to stay involved with, to interact with. But just like your website, there is a real effective way of marketing. And in today's day and age, one of the only real effective ways of marketing is being online. But just being online is not enough. Being effective online is key. And again, Google, do your research, read some online marketing business books, educate yourself to the most effective way. And just like in tip number 1, don't bite off too much at first, more than you can chew. Make sure you do this in manageable ways, and whatever you do, even if it's small, be super effective. And that's gonna get you further than spreading yourself out on a million different websites that you can't possibly spend enough time on to cultivate and post consistent content. So now let's move on to tip number 3. Okay, tip number 3 is what I call building meaningful relationships. Some people will call it networking, but I think of it more than just networking. Networking to me means you're just out and you're just kind of meeting people, shaking hands, you get to know people, you exchange business cards, and there's no real relationship built there. There's no meaningful relationship built there. So building meaningful relationship is extremely, extremely important. Now you may say, well, who should I build meaningful relationships with? You want to build meaningful relationships with prospective clients, obviously artists, if you're working in a studio and trying to mix records or record different artists. You want to build meaningful relationships with other people in your industry, whether that's some competition, which could be helpful in a collaborative way, whether that's people in social media marketing, as we just talked about, that's good to build relationships there. It's good to get yourself out and build meaningful relationships with people. And the second part of that, I always say, is build meaningful relationships / help others. This is an extremely important part of building a relationship. It is the most important part. You want to give more than you take. You don't want to just build relationships for the sake of, you want them to do something for you. You have to get in the mindset, if you want to be a business owner, especially in a people business like the music business, is that you want to be always thinking, how can I help someone else? So for example, if you're out looking to record artists and you're out in a club and you're meeting different artists and you're meeting different bands, and you want to approach them with the attitude, how can I help them? Not just trying to lure them into your studio so they can pay you money for them to get a recording session out of you. It's more about, how can I help that artist? And you have to think about that. When you're building relationships with people within the industry, people that might be your competition or people that work in different facets of the music industry that can be a resource for you, you always want to be looking to, how can I help them? And it's not because you're just looking to get something in return. That usually will happen if you give and you give and you give and you build meaningful relationships and you build good friendships along the way. Yes, that stuff will turn back and will help you, but you have to have the mindset of, how can I help others? If you have that mindset and you're constantly trying to use your skill set and some of your services to help an artist, to help a competitor, maybe in the field, again, more in a collaborative way, whether it's helping someone else that does something else within the music industry, you're trying to help them, they're trying to help you. It's really, really important. And this is something that you never stop doing. This is not something that you just do it and it's just done. Building meaningful relationships, or networking, and I hate that word, but networking is a lifetime thing. If you want to be in business and you want to continue to grow and you want to continue to flourish your business or have your business flourish, you have to continue to build meaningful relationships. In the music business, this is a people business. And if you're not good around people, and if you're not willing to help people, and if you're not there to try to do for others before they do for you, you're not going to go very far in this business. So again, tip number 3, building meaningful relationships, help others, is a major key for building a successful home studio business. Okay, so that's it for this part 1 of our 3-part series on how to build a home studio business, a successful home studio business. Once again, if you like what you saw in this video, please hit that subscribe button below. It helps me out tremendously. Also go out to Facebook and follow me on Facebook. Be sure to head out to homerecordingmadeeasy.com for more tips, tricks, concepts, and training around everything home recording. And be sure to be on the lookout for part 2 of this 3-part mini-series. And until the next video, this has been David with homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.